She laughed. At least my baby has a father. Then my son revealed her husband's secret. My sister Chloe stood there at her baby shower, 7 months pregnant, one hand resting on her perfectly rounded belly and the other clutching a crystal champagne flute filled with sparkling apple cider. The late afternoon sunlight filtering through the Willow Creek Country Club's floor-to-ceiling windows caught her 2-carat diamond wedding ring as she raised her glass for what would become the most devastating toast in our family's history. "At least my baby will have a father," she announced, her eyes locking directly onto mine with that practiced smile she'd weaponized since we were children, the one that appeared sweet and innocent to casual observers, but cut like a razor to anyone who truly knew her. The room of 43 carefully selected guests erupted into thunderous applause, as if she'd just announced the discovery of a cure for childhood cancer instead of delivering a precision strike designed to humiliate me and my son in front of everyone who mattered in our small Connecticut town. My mother, Patricia, actually rose from her seat at the head table, her manicured hands coming together in enthusiastic approval, nodding as though Chloe had just delivered some profound wisdom instead of a calculated insult. My 11-year-old son Camden sat beside me in his pressed khaki pants and navy polo shirt, his small hand finding mine beneath the rose-gold tablecloth. I could feel him trembling, not with fear or embarrassment, but with something else entirely, something I couldn't quite identify in that moment but would soon understand completely. What happened next would make every single person in that elegantly decorated room wish they had kept their champagne flutes raised in silent celebration instead of applauding my public humiliation. Because my quiet, intensely observant son, the boy they'd all dismissed as just another casualty from a broken home, was about to detonate a truth bomb that would reduce their picture-perfect world to nothing but smoke and shattered illusions. My name is Mia, and I'm 34 years old. I work as a senior marketing coordinator at a growing tech firm in downtown Hartford, and I've been raising my son alone for the past 18 months. Not by choice initially, nobody dreams of becoming a single mother, but now I wouldn't trade our life for anything. My ex-husband Blake left when his cocaine addiction finally caught up with him, after I discovered he'd been stealing from Camden's college fund and had secretly opened credit cards in my name, leaving us with over $60,000 in debt I knew nothing about. The divorce was finalized on a humid Thursday in September, and I remember walking out of that courthouse feeling like I could finally breathe deeply for the first time in 3 years. Camden is my entire universe. He's 11, but when he looks at me with those serious hazel eyes, I swear he possesses the wisdom of someone who's lived multiple lifetimes. He devours books like they're oxygen, constructs intricate Lego metropolises that take over our entire living room, and has this uncanny ability to notice details that escape everyone else. His teachers describe him as exceptionally gifted. His school counselor says he's remarkably well-adjusted given his circumstances. My family calls him unfortunate. My sister Chloe is 31 and has always been everything I'm supposedly not. She married her college sweetheart, Ryan, in a lavish ceremony at this very country club that cost more than I make in a year. She lives the kind of life that generates thousands of likes on social media, the sprawling colonial mansion in Westfield's most exclusive neighborhood, the brand new Cadillac Escalade in the circular driveway, the designer maternity wardrobe that costs more than my monthly mortgage payment. Every December, she sends out professionally photographed Christmas cards featuring her family in coordinated outfits against pristine white backgrounds, their smiles so perfect they could be used in dental advertisements. Ryan, her husband, is 33 and owns a successful chain of luxury car dealerships throughout New England. He's the type of man who arrives at family gatherings wearing crisp button-down shirts and pressed chinos, dominating conversations with talk of quarterly sales figures and investment portfolios. He calls everyone champ or tiger, including me, which never fails to make my skin crawl. He enjoys reminding anyone within earshot that he's completely self-made, that he built his automotive empire from absolutely nothing, that he understands what it takes to be a true winner in today's competitive marketplace. My mother, Patricia, is 57 and has never forgiven me for divorcing Blake. In her carefully constructed world, women endure whatever they must. They make marriages work regardless of the cost. They don't air private family business or admit defeat publicly. She raised Chloe and me in a household where maintaining appearances took precedence over acknowledging reality, where we learned to smile brightly even when our world was crumbling behind closed doors. She still introduces Chloe as my daughter, married to a very successful businessman, and me as simply my other daughter. My father, Robert, is 59 and operates according to one simple principle: avoid confrontation at absolutely any cost. He's mastered the art of being physically present while emotionally absent, nodding agreeably to whatever my mother declares while mentally retreating into his newspaper or planning his next golf outing. He taught me how to change a flat tire and throw a perfect spiral, but he never taught me how to stand up to the people who were supposed to love and protect me most. That baby shower was intended to be Chloe's ultimate triumph, the grand celebration of her flawless marriage producing its flawless offspring. The garden room had been transformed into something straight out of Southern Living magazine, with blush pink and champagne gold decorations covering every available surface. There were elaborate party games with expensive prizes, a designer candy station that perfectly matched the color scheme, and a 3-tier cake that looked too exquisite to actually eat. Every single guest had been meticulously chosen to witness and validate Chloe's success story. What none of them realized was that sometimes the people casting stones live in the most fragile glass houses, and sometimes an 11-year-old boy can perceive truths that adults spend decades desperately avoiding. I should have recognized the baby shower would be a complete disaster when Mom called me 4 separate times that morning to remind me to dress appropriately and please don't make today about your situation. The first call interrupted my 6:30 a.m. workout. The second came while I was preparing Camden's breakfast. The third caught me in the middle of ironing his good shirt, the navy one without the barely visible stain near the collar that I'd been hoping nobody would notice. "Mia, I'm being completely serious," Mom declared through my phone speaker while I adjusted Camden's collar. "Today is Chloe's special day. She's been planning every detail for months. Just smile graciously, present your gift, and try to blend into the background." Blend into the background. That had been my designated role in our family dynamics for as long as I could remember. Remain quiet while Chloe sparkled. Don't create ripples while Chloe glided across smooth waters. 18 months had passed since my divorce from Blake, and apparently that remained the family scandal that defined my existence, the shameful thing that made me someone who needed to fade into wallpaper rather than command any attention. The Willow Creek Country Club looked like something from a Hollywood movie when we arrived in the parking lot. My 9-year-old Honda Accord appeared painfully out of place surrounded by Mercedes-Benzes and BMW SUVs gleaming in the afternoon sunshine. Camden noticed the disparity immediately, though he didn't comment. He simply straightened his shirt one final time and carefully retrieved the gift bag from the back seat. "You remembered to sign the card, right, Mom?" he asked with the kind of concern that made my heart ache. I loved him for trying to ensure we followed every protocol perfectly, that we didn't provide them with any additional ammunition to use against us. "I remembered everything, sweetheart. We're going to be absolutely perfect guests today." The garden room had been transformed into what appeared to be a Pinterest board brought to spectacular life. Blush pink and champagne gold balloons formed an elaborate archway over the gift table, where presents were already stacked impossibly high. Vintage mason jars wrapped in delicate lace held pink peonies and white hydrangeas. A glittering banner reading "A Little Princess is on the way" stretched across one entire wall in elegant script lettering. There were even those incredibly elaborate centerpieces on each round table, the expensive kind featuring floating candles and scattered pearls that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. Approximately 43 guests were already mingling when we entered, their animated voices creating a symphony of excitement and anticipation that filled the high-ceilinged space. I recognized most faces immediately. There was Mrs. Wellington from Mom's church, wearing her finest Sunday dress despite it being Saturday afternoon. Ryan's mother, Catherine, commanded attention near the dessert table, her distinctive Boston accent carrying across the room as she enthusiastically told anyone within earshot about her overwhelming excitement at finally becoming a grandmother. Chloe's book club friends had clustered together near the panoramic windows, all wearing sundresses that appeared coordinated without being obviously planned. "Remember our discussion?" I whispered to Camden as we paused in the ornate doorway. "If anyone says something that makes you uncomfortable, squeeze my hand twice and we'll step outside for fresh air." "I remember, Mom, but I'm perfectly fine." "We're both fine," he replied with such genuine conviction that I almost believed him, almost forgot that just last week he'd returned from school asking why his future cousin would have something he didn't, a father who stayed. My relationship with Chloe had always been layered with complexity, shaped by decades of comparison and competition I never volunteered to participate in. Growing up, she effortlessly earned straight A's every semester while maintaining her position as student council president. I struggled to maintain B averages while working part-time jobs to pay for my own school supplies. She dated the quarterback of our high school football team and attended senior prom looking like an actual princess in a gown that cost more than my car. I went with a group of close friends and left early to watch movies at someone's house, which honestly felt more authentic anyway. She married Ryan in an extravagant ceremony with 200 guests and a reception at this exact country club. I married Blake in a simple courthouse ceremony with just our parents and his brother as witnesses. But here's what those perfectly staged family photographs never revealed. I had been genuinely happy in my simpler life until Blake's addiction transformed it into a living nightmare. Chloe might have secured the fairy tale wedding, but I'd experienced real, honest love, at least temporarily. And when that love became toxic and dangerous, I found the inner strength to walk away. That had to count for something meaningful, even if my family refused to acknowledge it. The trouble began during the gift opening ceremony, though looking back with perfect hindsight, I should have recognized the tension building from the moment we took our assigned seats. Chloe was positioned center stage in an ornate chair decorated with silk ribbons and miniature silver baby rattles, looking absolutely radiant in her floral maternity dress, a designer piece she'd specifically mentioned cost $1,200 when she'd modeled it for me the previous week. Ryan stood positioned behind her chair like a devoted bodyguard, his manicured hands possessively placed on her shoulders, performing the role of the perfect husband with the dedication of a method actor preparing for an Academy Award. "Oh wonderful, this one's from Cousin Janet," Chloe exclaimed theatrically, lifting a silver box adorned with an enormous satin bow. She transformed opening each gift into a full performance, holding every item high above her head for maximum admiration, while her best friend Stephanie diligently recorded who gave what in an elegant leather notebook for the inevitable thank you card campaign. A professional-grade breast pump from Ryan's mother. A $1,000 stroller system from her book club collective. Each successive gift more expensive than the previous one, transforming the entire celebration into an elaborate display of wealth and status that made my stomach turn. Then she reached for mine. "This one's from Mia," she announced, her voice shifting almost imperceptibly, like a news anchor preparing to report on a tragic accident. I watched her open the gift bag with deliberate slowness, removing each piece of tissue paper individually, building suspense for what everyone clearly expected to be disappointingly inadequate. When she finally revealed the baby quilt I'd spent 3 months creating, working on it every single night after Camden fell asleep, hand-stitching each intricate detail, she held it up between 2 fingers as though it might be contaminated with some contagious disease. "How wonderfully crafty," she said, making the word crafty sound like a terminal diagnosis. "You always were so talented with your hands. I suppose you have to be, raising Camden completely alone and everything." The room's energy shifted uncomfortably. Several people produced that nervous laughter humans make when they're uncertain whether something is intended as humor or cruelty. I felt Camden stiffen beside me, his fork freezing halfway to his mouth with a bite of the elaborate cake he'd been genuinely enjoying. "Each square features a different classic nursery rhyme," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady and professional. "I embroidered them all by hand. The backing is made from organic cotton that's completely hypoallergenic." "How incredibly thoughtful," Chloe continued, folding the quilt carelessly and setting it far away from the pile of approved presents. "Well, we can't all afford to shop at exclusive boutiques. Some of us have to get creative with our financial limitations. Actually, handmade gifts often possess more value than store-bought items," Camden said quietly, but his voice carried clearly across the suddenly attentive room. Everyone turned to stare at him with expressions ranging from amused condescension to mild surprise. That he'd spoken at all. That quilt probably required over 150 hours to complete. At minimum wage rates, that represents more monetary value than most of these presents combined. Ryan produced his signature booming laugh, the one he deployed in business meetings to establish dominance. "Listen to our little economist here. Too bad real life isn't actually about calculating hours invested, right, champ? It's about what you can genuinely provide for your family." That's when Mom decided to insert herself into the conversation from her position of honor at Chloe's right side. "Some women simply make catastrophically poor choices," she declared loudly enough for every guest to hear clearly, staring directly at me with undisguised disappointment. Thank heaven Chloe learned valuable lessons from her sister's mistakes. She waited for the right man, built a solid foundation, created a proper family structure. Not everyone possesses that kind of wisdom and patience. Mrs. Wellington nodded enthusiastically from the adjacent table, her pearl necklace catching the light. "It's absolutely crucial for children to have both parents present, a stable household environment. Research consistently demonstrates that children from broken homes struggle significantly more with academic performance, social relationships, emotional regulation, practically everything important." "My grades are actually better than most kids in my class," Camden responded, his voice growing stronger and more confident. "I'm enrolled in the advanced academic program." "Of course you are, sweetie," Chloe replied with exaggerated sympathy that made my blood boil. You're doing absolutely the best you can given your circumstances. It's simply that children require strong male role models, someone to teach them about strength, about being providers, about responsibility. She stood up then, cradling her belly with both hands in that performative gesture she'd adopted since announcing her pregnancy. I just feel so incredibly blessed, she continued, her voice taking on the theatrical quality of a motivational speaker addressing a packed auditorium. At least my baby will have a father. Someone to teach him how to throw a perfect spiral, how to tie a proper Windsor knot, how to be a real man. Someone who will be present for every birthday celebration, every little league game, every important milestone. Not everyone can provide their children with that complete, stable family experience. The room exploded into applause, 43 adults actually applauding a woman who had just systematically dismantled her nephew's sense of self-worth in public. But what they didn't know was that my quiet, perceptive son had been storing up secrets of his own. I was gathering my purse, preparing to leave before saying something that would permanently fracture what remained of our family relationships. My hands trembled as I folded my cloth napkin and placed it beside the untouched slice of cake that probably tasted like beautiful cardboard anyway. The chair scraped against the polished marble floor as I stood, feeling 43 pairs of eyes watching expectantly, waiting to see if I'd create the dramatic scene that would prove them all correct about the unstable divorced sister who couldn't maintain her composure. Come on, Camden, I said quietly, extending my hand toward him. Let's go home. But his hand wasn't there waiting for mine. Instead, he was standing up, pushing his chair back with deliberate precision that demanded attention. His expression had transformed from the hurt confusion he'd worn moments earlier into something entirely different. That quiet, analytical look I knew intimately, the one that appeared when he'd made an important decision and nothing would deter him from his chosen course. Mom, please wait, he said, his young voice carrying across the garden room with startling clarity that made every side conversation cease immediately. Devon walked purposefully to the center of the room, navigating between the decorated tables with their elaborate pink centerpieces and crystal stemware. He stopped directly beside the gift table where all those expensive presents were displayed like trophies, looking small in stature but somehow commanding complete attention from every adult present. Initially, people assumed it was endearing, the little boy from the broken home wanting to say something sweet to his pregnant aunt, probably to apologize for his mother's attitude or offer proper congratulations. Mom smiled indulgently, clearly expecting a moment of redemption. What is it, sweetheart? Do you want to say something nice to Aunt Chloe about the new baby? Actually, Grandma, I have a question, Camden said, turning to face Chloe directly. His voice remained conversational, almost casual, like he was inquiring about weekend plans. Chloe smiled with that condescending expression she'd perfected, the one designed to make you feel childish even when you were absolutely right. Of course, sweetie. What would you like to know? Are you excited about having a new cousin? I'm very excited about the cousin, Camden nodded thoughtfully. But that's not my question. He paused, and I swear you could hear ice cubes settling in glasses as 43 people held their collective breath. Aunt Chloe, he continued, his 11-year-old voice slicing through the garden room's atmosphere like a surgeon's scalpel through silk. Should I tell everyone about Uncle Ryan's other family? The words detonated like a bomb in slow motion. I watched Ryan's face drain of all color, his hand freezing mid-handshake with Dr. Morrison from the country club's board of directors. His perfectly styled hair suddenly appeared disheveled despite him not moving a muscle. The confident automotive empire owner persona cracked like an eggshell, revealing something raw and terrified underneath. What are you talking about, champ? Ryan managed, attempting to laugh off the question, but his voice cracked on that fake-friendly term he used for everyone, suddenly sounding desperate rather than confident. Kids say the most imaginative things, don't they? But Camden wasn't laughing. He wasn't even smiling. He calmly retrieved his phone, the one I'd given him strictly for emergencies, and held it up matter-of-factly, like he was presenting crucial evidence in a courtroom. Last month when you took me to that Yankees game, remember? The one where you said you were teaching me about being a man. Camden's voice remained steady, but there was steel underneath that quiet tone. You said we needed to stop by your office first, but we didn't go to any office, Uncle Ryan. We went to a house in Riverside, a small blue house with a broken mailbox and a wooden swing set in the front yard. The room had gone completely silent. Even the catering staff had frozen mid-service, suspended with champagne bottles half poured and dessert plates half distributed. Chloe's perfect pink and gold world hung in suspended animation, waiting for the next words that would either restore it or obliterate it entirely. A woman named Brittany answered the door, Camden continued, each word precise and devastating. She had blonde hair and was wearing scrubs because she works as a pediatric nurse. And there was a little girl with her, a little girl with curly red hair who ran straight to you and called you daddy. And that's when Chloe's perfect world finally shattered into a million irreparable pieces, proving that sometimes the truth has been hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right moment, and the right brave voice, to set it free.